everyone, Linda Israel here, and this is another session of story time with Linda. I was asked in one of my comments on a video how I began as a creative person, as a crafter, artist, paper artist, the whole gamut of things. And so let's go way back. When I was a little girl, we lived on a farm. It was a small farm and we didn't have a whole lot of money. I had two brothers that were living with me at our little family home. And whenever I got a Barbie doll, I needed to clothe her. Well, even back then, almost 40 some odd years ago, the Barbie doll clothes even then were $5 for a package, and that's expensive, especially back then. I think now they're even more. I haven't looked at them in a while. And we happened to be involved with an organization. It was 4-H at the time, and we had a garage sale selling a bunch of old clothes. Well, at the end of the sale, there was a whole bunch of clothes that they were going to throw away. So I took them, and I brought them home, and I got out my handy scissors and a needle and thread, and I made Barbie doll clothes. I took the snaps off of clothing, I'd reposition them. There was a shirt that had elastic in the sleeve, and so I would cut that off and adjust the elastic, and because it was a sleeve, it turned out it was perfect to make a little bell skirt or dress to go on my Barbie dolls. And that's how I started. I even at one time, my mother threw away a lamp because it wasn't working. So I took it apart and figured out why it wasn't working and rewired it. And I used it for years and years and years. Moving forward, I started to learn how to sew because of my step-grandmother. She came to stay with us for about 3 weeks and brought a sewing machine to me and taught me how to use it, how to read a pattern, and I made my first outfit on a sewing machine. Then I made my first prom dress for my prom when I was in high school. After I got out of high school, I made things like wedding gowns and bridesmaid dresses and prom dresses. I made pillows and cord covers. I made coasters. I've done all kinds of fabric type items, quilting, quilts. And back in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, I learned more about paper crafts. One of my neighbors invited me to go to a stamp party. It was dozens of terrific stamps, which later turned into Close to My Heart. And I went and I bought 2 stamps. That's all I could afford at the time. I bought 2 stamps and an ink pad. And then I had some paper. And I started stamping. I loved to be able to put that image down and color it any way I want. And that's how I started stamping. And then shortly thereafter, I became a demonstrator with dozens of terrific stamps. And I would have shows all over the greater Oklahoma City area, go down to Lawton, which is about almost a 2-hour, hour and a half, 2-hour drive from here. Been to Tulsa and back 2 hours away, and sharing stamping and coming up with ideas and making cards and scrapbook layouts. And I was with that company for a long time, and when they changed names and they were mostly scrapbooking at that time, not near as much of the card making, which I was into, I stopped selling for them because it just wasn't the right style, if you will, for me at that time. I had outgrown it. But I continued to do rubber stamping, and I was a member of the Okie Inkers Stamp Club in Oklahoma City. More area. They kind of changed locations a couple of times, and I was even president for several years, and we met at my home. We met wherever we could find a place, and I really enjoyed it. Later, I became a demonstrator with Top Line Creations, which was a scrapbooking company, but I thought that it went really well with my paper arts product side of what I did, which was making greeting cards, and I would make scrapbook layouts for other people. Moving forward, I started doing some crafty projects, and a friend of mine was going to be on HGTV's That's Clever back in 2000 and 2006, I think it was. It was a long time ago. It took them almost 2 years to produce and publish that TV show. And she said, Linda, you should sign up for it. So I submitted a couple of ideas, and we worked back and forth with the production manager over that shoot. And she said, here's what I want you to do out of what you showed me. And they had me do 2 projects that aired on HGTV's That's Clever. I hope someday that they will put those online or make those available on demand, because you can't get those videos, and I never got a recording of it. But it was fun, and I had a great time, and because of that, it launched my YouTube channel. I decided that I would go ahead and start making videos after doing the production with HGTV's That's Clever. And I opened up my YouTube back in 2009, 2010s when I officially started making videos, and it's been growing ever since. Since I guess almost 2 years ago, when I decided that, okay, I'm going to try getting on a design team. I ended up trying out for and got the position with Brutus Monroe, who has rubber stamps and paper and inks, and they seemed to like my work, and I was with them for a year. Around that same time, I also tried out and got on the team, the creative crew, with Canvas Corp Brands. I was also on Renea Foil, and I also got on Calico Collage. I'm trying to remember if there's another one in there. I think at one time I had 5, and slowly I kind of changed things up a little bit. Now I'm only on Calico Collage, Canvas Corp Brands, and Scrap Perfect at the moment, but I have been doing some guest blogging, if you will. Companies are sending me product and asking me to do a product review tutorial with those products. So it's been really interesting to be contacted and say, hey, will you do a video on this? And I'm like, okay, sure, why not? Send it to me and I'll do it. And 2 years ago is when I really got back into doing journals, and then specifically junk journals. Even back in the 90s, I was making journals and altered books. That's what we did back there, was altered books is what we called them. And now everybody calls it a junk journal. And back then, there wasn't really a market for it. It wasn't something that I could create and put out in a shop and sell. Greeting cards I could sell. Doing journals and junk journals weren't going over so well. But 2 years ago, when I started back into doing more paper crafts and got on the design teams, the junk journal side blossomed. And what I like about junk journals is the fact that I can do every technique that I enjoy in a journal. If I want to sew, I can sew. If I want to rubber stamp, I can rubber stamp. If I want to color, if I want to do mixed media, if I want to do collage, if I just want to grab a bunch of random things and put it in a journal, I can do that. There are no rules. It's whatever I want it to be. And that's what I like. So that's kind of a snippet of how I began and where I am now. I hope you enjoyed hearing the story today. If you did, give this video a thumbs up, share it with your friends, comment below if you have any comments, and of course if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And definitely leave me a comment of what you would like to hear from me next. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Have a fabulous day. Bye.